The Walking Dead franchise has spawned multiple things. You of course have the TV shows, you have all the video games, multiple novels, and of course, where it all began, the comic book series. Now you may know that the Walking Dead comic book series initially was published in October of 2003, with its first proper volume, Days Gone By, being released in May of 2004. The series went on until July 2019 and spanned 193 issues with multiple specials and one-shots as well. But let's rewind for a second. How did Robert Kirkman get this comic pitched? Now, a lot of people know about the whole alien thing. Robert Kirkman said that there'd be aliens in the comics and that's how he got it made. But there's actually more to the story of how Kirkman initially pitched The Walking Dead. So going back to the early 2000s, Robert Kirkman and Tony Moore pitched a comic book concept to Image Comics called Dead Planet. Here you can see the little cover for it. The story was going to be set in the 27th century, and basically a crew went to this planet and discovered this mineral that would kickstart the brain and allow its motor functions to continue post-death. The government would then take this mineral and decide to use it as a weapon, of course putting it in a bomb, the idea being is you kill a bunch of the enemy and then they rise up and kill the rest of your enemies. From what I can tell, the story was going to take place after the bomb was used, and of course all of society has collapsed and they've all turned into walkers. Apocalypse has begun. Except in this universe, The Walking Dead would have been set in the 27th century. The story was always going to include Michonne, although back then she was called Michelle. So Robert Kirkman and Tony Moore, they pitched Dead Planet to Image Comics and they hated it. It was rejected. So Robert Kirkman and Tony Moore went back to the drawing board and he discovered one of his favourite films, Night of the Living Dead, of course by George A. Romero, was actually in the public domain. So Kirkman's new idea was to pitch a continuation of George A. Romero's film. That way, he gets the benefits of the Night of the Living Dead IP without having to pay any royalties, because of course, it was in the public domain. So now in this universe, The Walking Dead is set in the 1960s. And of course, this was where Rick Grimes was created, along with his son Carl Grimes and Carol Grimes. Huh. Wait, what? Yeah, Laurie was initially called Carol. The comic would have started with the news broadcaster from Night of the Living Dead. And as you can see from this following clip, the dialogue is lifted directly from the film.
Reports, incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria. The wave of murder which is sweeping the eastern third of the nation is being committed by creatures who feast upon the flesh of their victims. First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen at first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, the reports persisted.
As well as this, in Kirkman's Night of the Living Dead comic pitch, the first walker, or zombie, or ghoul that Rick would encounter bears a striking resemblance to Bill Heisman, who of course was the first zombie in the Romero film. Kirkman and Moore then take this Night of the Living Dead pitch to Image Comics, but Jim Valentino, one of the co-founders, hated the idea that this was tied to an existing IP. So instead, he suggested that Kirkman and Moore create something new, so they don't have to rely on something that may or may not actually technically be in the public domain. It's kind of a long story as to why Night of the Living Dead is in the public domain. Now basically, the reason why it is initially the film was going to be titled Night of the Flesh Eaters, but then of course it was changed to Night of the Living Dead. But during the title change, the copyright notice was accidentally omitted from the title card, which somehow caused the film to enter the public domain. Copyright law is fucking wild, I don't understand it, but there you go. Jim Valentino, though, wasn't too keen on doing a comic following Night of the Living Dead because its existence in the public domain was a little iffy to begin with, and he'd rather actually cash in on their own exclusive IP. So the Night of the Living Dead pitch was rejected. So Kirkman and Moore go back to the drawing board once more. And this time, they decide to pitch basically the same comic, but remove any mentions of Night of the Living Dead. So they change the news broadcaster. He now looks very different. Kirkman later released the full pitch for everyone to see. So let's get into it. Announcement. We assure you, we will stay on air as long as we can, continuing our around-the-clock coverage of the event that is sweeping the nation. By all accounts, the dead seem to be leaving their graves, returning to life, and feeding on the flesh of the living. Yes, you heard me right. The eyewitness reports from across the globe have all been confirmed. You've seen the stunning footage. There is no denying this horrendous news. It is the humble opinion of this newsman that we may as well be witnessing the end of the world as we know it. Jesus, this is just a sad war of the world's rip-off. I don't know, Rick. I think this looks like it could be real. It has been going on. I'm not doing the voices. I don't know, Rick. I think this looks like it could be real. It has been going on for a while. Oh, come on, Carol. We may very well be witnessing the end of the world. This sounds real to you. The newscaster seems scared. He wouldn't seem so scared if it wasn't real. Of course he's scared. He's trying to make this crap believable. I'm not listening to another word of this. I'm turning this thing off and we're going to bed. No! What's gotten into you? You're going to wake up Carl. Please, let's just watch it a little longer, just in case it's real. Honey, don't you think the precinct would have called me off my vacation if something like this was... Is that the door? Who would come to visit this late? It's probably someone who broke down, just wanting to use the phone. Hold on! Jesus, I'm coming! Insert squeaking doorknob sound effects. Ruga roar! Yar! Rar! Oof! Get off him! Get off him! Carol, stand back! Wham, wham, wham. Stop, or I'll shoot! Whag! This thing is loaded. Don't make me do it. Don't make me shoot you. Don't! Clink. Blam. Carol's reaction is kind of cute. I don't know why. I like how she's wearing Rick's uniform. That's kind of cute, okay? But that is the comic. That's all that was released. I hope you enjoyed my little performance there. But anyway, Kirkman and Moore decided to pitch this comic to Jim Valentino. And they rejected it again. Image Comic just weren't too keen, okay? They didn't want a zombie comic after all. They thought the risks were too high, whatever it may be. But this is when Kirkman came up with the idea of saying, oh, by the way, aliens caused the zombie outbreak. Possibly taking the idea from his very, very first pitch, which of course was Dead Planet. That was enough to sell Image Comics, so they greenlit The Walking Dead. But the whole alien thing, as you know, never ended up happening. Although Kirkman has joked that alien spores were responsible for the outbreak. You may know that George Romero, before he sadly passed away, never had a nice thing to say about The Walking Dead. The reason why, I hope, is now clear to you. Because Kirkman essentially exploited a copyright error in order to bootleg Romero's IP. Now granted, eventually he did separate from that idea, but that's where it all started, right? And I can't blame George Romero for being bitter. Anyway, that's all I gotta say really. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you to all channel members, Baddy, Ralph Farha, Just Jordan, August Fisher, Rye, Austin Mann, Jesus, JB, Turbo Clash G, Logan Keeley, Corey, and Jokel. Jokel. And a bigger shout out to my Walker Slayers. Those are my top tier channel members. We've got Coda Cole and Red Lemon Cola. Cheers.